Hey there, thinkers! Welcome back to Critical Hit. My name is S, and I honestly can't even with people anymore. Like, as if the gaming industry wasn't already grasping for breath under the weight of misguided progressive meddling. Here comes another crusader from Sweet Baby Inc., ready to crank the whole dial up to 11. So good storytelling, immersive escapism? Nah. Why bother with that? Why bother with what actually makes games fun when there's a whole agenda to shove down players' throats, right? It's not enough that we're already watching beloved franchises morph into hollow shells. Now they are actively bragging about it. This former Sweet Baby Inc. employee proudly declares that they're not going to stop us, like there's some kind of noble force for justice, and not, the people who made it their life's mission to dismantle what made gaming great in the first place. It's not even subtle anymore. It's all about preaching to us while stuffing their pockets. And they wonder why gamers are frustrated. The real kicker here is that they generally don't care if we're tired of seeing our favorite pastimes twisted beyond recognition. They're convinced that they know best, and they'll keep pushing and doubling down. Like, never mind that they're alienating a huge chunk of their audience along the way. However, I have a few things to say here, but before I do, we have a small request. If you are new here, consider hitting the subscribe button, smashing that like, and ring the bell to be notified for our next video, because we would greatly appreciate this, since this will help us appease those pesky YouTube algorithm gods. So, we thank you. Now, let me give you our thoughts on this, and let's get into it. Alright, let's dive even deeper, because apparently we have to keep revisiting this sad reality that is the modern gaming industry. Like, imagine this. You've got people who despise gamers. Yes, despise. Who've wormed their way into the industry, and now they're steering the ship. These aren't people who are here because they love games or even respect the community. No, they're here to push their own agendas, build up their personal brand, rake in the cash, tearing down what made gaming amazing in the first place. Oh, and let's not forget Sweet Baby Inc., the narrative puppet masters. They'll swear up and down that they're not running the show, but anyone with half a brain cell can see that they're driving the force behind all this innovation. And sure, Alyssa Mercante wants to pacify everyone with her Sweet Baby Inc. doesn't do what you think they do puff pieces. But like, come on, Alyssa, you're fooling no one. Everyone knows what the game is now. And now we've got this former employee piping up, basically saying, yep, we're doubling, tripling, quadrupling down on the woke agenda. And we don't care if it kills the industry. I mean, it's almost laughable, except that it's not. Because they're taking something that's supposed to be about fun, as well as creativity and escapism, and they're twisting it into some bizarre platform to feel morally superior. So here we are, watching these industry invaders play power move games with something that used to be about passion, all while they hold gamers in contempt. So look who's back in the spotlight. Grant Roberts, the ex-Sweet Baby Inc. employee, now calling the shots as Longdo's narrative director and associate studio director. So Roberts has made it crystal clear that Sweet Baby Inc. isn't about to course correct, no matter how many gamers are fed up with the relentless push to inject woke messaging into every pixel that they touch. Apparently, the massive outcry from fans is just background noise. Sweet Baby Inc. has a mission, and it's to steamroll over anything remotely traditional in gaming. Like, I don't know, say coherent storylines and immersive gameplay? Like, now add this debacle and the drama with the Powell group. Those two were supposed to be thick as thieves, and for a hot minute, the Powell group was flaunting its partnership with Sweet Baby Inc. on LinkedIn and their other official websites. But once gamers caught on to the Sweet Baby Inc.'s latest contributions to the industry, Powell got a sudden case of cold feet. Within days, they wiped any mention of Sweet Baby Inc. faster than they could say brand protection. 1 second, they're all in on the Sweet Baby Inc. agenda, and the next they're hitting the delete button like their lives depend on it. So much for that power partnership, eh? Looks like even Powell wants to keep their distance when the gamers start calling them out. This is a massive deal, because if Sweet Baby Inc. still has this partnership in place, we're talking about them being free to unleash a whole new level of chaos on the industry. And let's not kid ourselves here. They've worked with some of the biggest players out there, like Microsoft, Sony, and a slew of other major studios. They've made an undeniable impact, whether you want to admit it or not. And they love to claim, oh, we're just a small team, as if that somehow excuses everything. But wait, it gets better, because now we've got Roberts, who's been cozying up to Sweet Baby Inc. for God knows how long, stepping up to the plate to double down on this complete nonsense. Roberts, in their infinite wisdom, is now claiming when it really reached its apex, when Elon Musk was tweeting about us, companies were reaching out to us privately showing support. Nobody was pulling that support. He then attempted to explain why there is hardly any support for the community being made publicly. And he goes, I think the reason why we've had more support privately than publicly is because when people do speak up publicly, we knew that they would be opening themselves up to attacks. Here's what absolutely baffles me about the way that these people think. They love to absolutely say that, hey, developers don't need to work with us. Okay, so let me get this straight then. You expect us to believe that a developer is going to drop $25,000 just for the sake of it? And then you can just sit back while you throw out a bunch of suggestions that don't get used, changes that don't get made, or improvements that never see the light of day? Yeah, sure, they'll pay you, but no, none of the work that you push for, none of the supposed game changes ideas that you propose, and none of the forced adjustments you pressured them into making will ever make it into the game. And then we have people like Grant who love to pull out the "you're misunderstanding us" card. Oh, really? Then prove us wrong. If we really don't get it, if you're really out here being the unappreciated geniuses of the industry, then show us some tangible proof. Take one game, just one, and give us the whole rundown. Here's the list of all the changes we suggested, here's what was in the game before, and here's what's made it after. Hell, even throw in examples of where you were instrumental in making the game better. But they won't do that. And why? Because they know exactly what's going on. They don't want to clarify because they can't clarify. They don't want to show us that they've been caught red-handed in their own little web of half-truths and empty promises. Because who are we kidding? They're doing exactly what we think they're doing, even though they'll bend over backwards to insist that they're not. It's almost as if they want us to believe there's some misunderstood heroes of the gaming industry. Except when you actually look at the evidence, or rather the lack thereof, it's painfully obvious that they're just getting paid to push their own agenda. No proof, no transparency, just a lot of hot air and deflection. Now, Roberts clearly thinks that it's just the right moment for companies to come crawling out of the woodwork to defend Sweet Baby Inc. and their cherished woke agenda. Like, I mean, who wouldn't want to hitch their wagon to a company that's basically become a masterclass in stirring up drama? First, let's talk about God of War Ragnarok, where fans practically lost their minds over the race swapping of a character, and the backlash was so deafening, it nearly overshadowed the game's music. But I mean, hey, it's all for the sake of representation. And then there's Alan Wake 2, which seemed determined to make everyone uncomfortable with its utterly baffling narrative choices. And Saga. Like, don't even get me started on Saga, because it's like they went out of their way to make sure that no one would give a damn about her storyline. But who needs a compelling plot when you're just too busy making a statement, right? And of course, who could forget Spider-Man 2, where Sweet Baby Inc. made sure that pride flags were practically flying in every corner of the game, alongside dialogue that felt more forced than a corporate diversity seminar. And let's not forget the character models that, while different, definitely didn't contribute to any sense of realism. But again, it's all part of the vision, right? Like, in the grand scheme of things, Sweet Baby Inc. has managed to leave their mark on some of the biggest games of the year. And by mark, I mean controversy. Every game they've touched comes with a side of backlash. And the majority of these games have crashed and burned. So yeah, Roberts, maybe it's not such a great idea for others to follow in those footsteps after all. So companies aren't exactly falling over themselves to defend Sweet Baby Inc. here, especially when they're basically the poster child for everything that's fueling Gamergate 2. And let's be real, the whole point of Gamergate 2 was to fight back against companies like Sweet Baby Inc. and those so-called narrative consultants who are more interested in pushing activist agendas than actually making good games. Like, these people are completely blind to the fact that no one in their right mind wants to publicly back one of the most universally hated entities in the gaming world right now. It's almost like they didn't expect anyone to notice their agenda taking over the industry. But wait, we did. And then there's Roberts proudly declaring that Sweet Baby Inc.'s woke crusade is inevitable because nothing screams progress like forcing everyone to swallow a narrative that's more about checking boxes than telling a compelling story. Like, he's out here spouting nonsense about how these changes are happening whether we like it or not, as if inclusion of more diverse characters and storylines somehow makes the game more authentic. But it doesn't matter if we think it's true or not, it's happening, so get used to it. How very thoughtful of him. Like, never mind real fans of the games who want to enjoy the experience without being lectured or spoon-fed someone else's agenda. But hey, if it checks the woke boxes, who cares, right? Oh, and I'm not here to try to change the world or stop it from evolving. I'm just trying to defend the one thing that I care about. The gaming industry. What I'm really fighting for is the right to enjoy entertainment without having activists shove their politics into every turn. That's the battle I'm choosing to fight. I don't want to be knee-deep in a game about dragons, magic, and mythical creatures only to be hit with real-world nonsense like transgender or non-binary, or worse, forced to pick my pronouns. It's beyond frustrating, and trust me, I'm not the only one who feels this way. There are millions of other gamers who feel the exact same way. This is just my personal gripe. You can have your little fantasy where your character is non-binary or transgender if that's what makes you happy, but let's not pretend it should define their entire existence. Like, really? Tosh and Valgard being a walking, talking political statement? Like, come on, give me a break. It's absurd. And here's the reality. The majority of players are not on board with this nonsense. We don't want our entertainment to be hijacked for a social agenda. It's just not going to resonate with the majority, and no amount of virtue signaling is going to change that. Oh, and I'm definitely not saying that games should be less inclusive. I mean, like, honestly, I love seeing different kinds of people, cultures, and time periods represented. It's amazing when diversity is generally integrated into the game in a way that adds to the storytelling. But again, let's not kid ourselves. The real problem is that the activists have completely infiltrated the gaming industry. And trust me, they're not in it for good stories or creating a fun experience. No. They've got one agenda, and that's to push their modern day messaging, no matter the cost. That does not make for timeless or enjoyable games. The result here is a lot of games are locked in their current moment, quickly aging out because they're more about preaching than actual entertaining. Like, here comes Roberts from Sweet Baby Inc. trying to clean up his company's image. He insists that they aren't just some DEI company or ones that make games woke, but he adds that not that there's anything wrong with that in the first place, but even if there was, that's not everything that we do. And I mean, sure, Roberts, of course, I am so sure it's totally not about pandering to the latest trends, even though that's clearly the vibe. It would be so delightful if people and institutions actually took a moment to learn from the lessons from Gamergate 1, which, funny enough, was portrayed as this giant, all-consuming harassment campaign, when in reality, it was really about something as simple and boring as ethics in video game journalism. Like, imagine that, ethics. But no, people can't even be bothered with that, right? It's far easier to pretend it was just a bunch of angry gamers yelling online, because that narrative fits the whole victim angle they love to run with. And now, of course, we've got Gamergate 2, because why wouldn't history repeat itself? Now it's all about defending traditional gaming culture from the absurd ideological shifts that have been creeping in like some weird cultural virus. It's about pointing out how developers, once known for creating games that actually work and were fun, are now more interested in chasing after investor money than crafting a quality product. And let's not forget the cherry on top here, the blatant payoffs in video game journalism. You've got outlets getting their palms greased to dish out glowing reviews for games that, surprise, might be more about a corporate agenda than actual gaming experience. But hey, let's just keep pretending that none of this is happening, right? And the mainstream way is working just fine. So who needs ethics when you can just cash in clickbait, right? Entities like Sweet Baby Inc. are basically fast-tracking the downfall of video games. I kid you not. It's like they've made it their mission to drain every last ounce of trust gamers have in development studios. Sure, video games won't completely vanish off the face of the earth, but don't be surprised if we start seeing a serious sales slump. Because gamers, those crazy people who actually pay to play, have completely lost faith in the industry, and honestly, I can't blame them. It's not exactly hard to see why, with all the shady practices, broken promises, and outright disasters. Why would anyone still trust the big studios? The fallout from this lack of trust will likely mean fewer games per year. Like, at first you think, oh no, fewer games, that's terrible. But honestly, if it means that we get fewer games that are high quality, polished, and actually worth playing, like, sign me up. But of course, developers are not on the same page. They're too busy chasing the almighty dollar to care about the quality or consumer trust. Like, case in point, Roberts. This guy actually went on record to gush about Sweet Baby Inc., calling the best thing since sliced bread. Because apparently, despite leaving in October, he'd absolutely love to go back in a heartbeat. And not only that, he'd hire Sweet Baby Inc. again, without a second thought. Because, you know, everything went so well the first time around. I mean, what else screams trustworthy like a studio that actively contributes to the gaming industry's decline? It's laughable. I mean, this just shows that it's all one major circle jerk for these people. Like, oh my god, I love Sweet Baby. Even though I don't work there anymore, I'd totally go back, and hey, I'd hire them too. Like, come on, they still don't get why gamers are furious with companies like Sweet Baby Inc. Of course, they want to shove their agenda into video games and pretend it's some great revolution. It's not. DEI initiatives, not a win. Diversity and inclusion in games that happen naturally? Sure, that sounds great. But when companies start ticking off boxes and forcing it, that's when it all falls apart. And that's exactly what gamers will keep pushing back against. So now this ex-employee is basically saying that they're going to double and triple down on the woke agenda, because that's cute. They seriously think that gamers won't do anything about it, but here's the thing, we already have. Like, we've made Sweet Baby Inc. so infamous that they literally can't make a single move without getting roasted into oblivion. They can act like they're untouchable, but the truth is, every move they make just ends up in a PR disaster. And honestly, that's a win in my book. The attention that we've drawn has them scrambling, and that's causing real damage to their brand. It's honestly hilarious to watch them try to act like nothing is wrong, while everyone's calling out their every mistake. So we're not just sitting back and letting this happen. We're actively making a difference. So who knows? Maybe one day we actually might be the ones to shut them down for good. However, those are my thoughts on this. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And hey, before you go, subscribe to our channel, smash that like button, and ring the bell to be notified for our next video. As always, this is Est, and I'm signing off now. So I'll see you in the next one. Toodles!